The executive boardroom was nothing short of grandiose. Towering glass walls offered an uninterrupted view of the city skyline, the golden hues of a setting sun reflecting off their polished surfaces. A massive mahogany table stretched across the room, surrounded by high-backed leather chairs, each occupied by powerful individuals in tailored suits. The air hummed with authority, punctuated only by the faint clicks of pens and the murmur of conversation. In stark contrast to the opulence stood Peter, the janitor. Dressed in a plain blue uniform, his well-worn sneakers barely made a sound against the marble floor as he quietly went about his work. His job was simple: ensure the room remained spotless, even if its occupants barely noticed his existence. Yet beneath his humble exterior lay a world no one could imagine. A mind sharp as a blade and a heart enriched by a love for language and learning. While the executives discussed multimillion-dollar deals, Peter listened in silence, his fluency in 5 languages rendering their jargon entirely comprehensible. Peter had worked in this building for years, and though the staff respected him, the executives treated him like part of the furniture. Tonight was no different. As he polished the edge of the table, careful not to interrupt their discussion, he caught snippets of their conversation. Talk of expansion, revenue streams, and market dominance. His presence, as always, went unnoticed, until a stray glance from the CEO changed everything. Jonathan Grant, the CEO, was a man who radiated confidence and commanded attention. With salt and pepper hair perfectly coiffed and a diamond-encrusted watch peeking from under his cuff, he embodied power and privilege. He was in the middle of addressing the room when his gaze landed on Peter. Perhaps it was boredom, or perhaps the desire to assert dominance, but his eyes lit up with a mischievous glint. "Hey, you there," Jonathan called out, his baritone voice slicing through the room. Peter froze momentarily, then turned, meeting the CEO's gaze with calm composure. The room fell silent, all eyes shifting to the janitor. "Yes, sir," Peter replied, his tone polite and steady. Jonathan's lips curled into a smirk. "What's your name?" "Peter, sir." "Peter, tell me something," Jonathan said, leaning back in his chair with an air of mockery. "If you were sitting here with us, what would you say about tonight's agenda?" The question elicited a ripple of laughter from the executives. Peter hesitated, unsure if this was a genuine query or a setup for humiliation. His grip tightened on the cleaning cloth, but his expression remained neutral. "I'm just here to clean, sir," he replied diplomatically. Jonathan chuckled. "Come on now, Peter. Surely, you have an opinion. Or is carrying a mop your only skill?" The room erupted in laughter again, but Peter's eyes never wavered. Deep inside, something stirred, a mix of defiance and determination. He could feel the weight of their eyes on him, judging, dismissing, underestimating. But Peter had learned long ago that true strength came not from reacting to provocation, but from proving one's worth in action. Peter's mind raced as he stood under the spotlight of their scrutiny. He had never asked for attention, let alone in such a demeaning way. Yet, here he was, thrust into a situation designed to belittle him. Jonathan, sensing Peter's hesitation, decided to push further. "Tell you what, Peter," the CEO said, his tone dripping with faux generosity. "Why don't you impress us with something? Can you speak French, perhaps? Or is English already a challenge for you?" The smug laughter that followed felt like a punch, but Peter's calm exterior betrayed nothing. The question hung in the air, daring him to respond. A part of him wanted to walk away, to let their assumptions remain unchallenged. But another part, the one that carried memories of his late mother's encouragement and the countless nights he spent learning languages in secret, refused to back down. Taking a deep breath, Peter straightened his posture and spoke. "As a matter of fact, sir, I do speak French." His voice was steady, neither defensive nor boastful, but the declaration silenced the room. Jonathan raised an eyebrow, intrigued but unconvinced. "Is that so?" he said, a smirk playing on his lips. "Well, by all means enlighten us." Peter's heart pounded as he stepped forward, all eyes now firmly on him. He glanced around the room, meeting the skeptical gazes of the executives. Then, with quiet confidence, he began to speak. The words flowed effortlessly, his accent impeccable, his delivery flawless. He recited a passage from Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, his voice carrying the room with its cadence and depth. The atmosphere shifted. Where there had been laughter, there was now stunned silence. Jonathan's smirk faded as he listened, the realization dawning that this janitor was far more than he appeared. Some executives exchanged wide-eyed glances, while others leaned forward, captivated by Peter's eloquence. When he finished, the room erupted into applause. Peter stood tall, his expression calm but proud. He had faced their judgment and emerged victorious, not by stooping to their level, but by rising above it. The applause seemed to reverberate through the room, a sound Peter had never imagined hearing in this setting. For the first time in years, he wasn't invisible. He wasn't just the janitor. He was Peter, a man with talents and depth that none of them had seen coming. Jonathan cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. Well, he began, struggling to regain his composure. That was unexpected. His words hung in the air, lacking the usual authority he wielded so effortlessly. Peter nodded politely. "Thank you, sir," he said, his tone respectful but firm. It wasn't just gratitude he conveyed. It was a quiet assertion of his dignity, a reminder that he had earned their respect. One of the executives, a woman seated near the end of the table, stood and approached Peter. "Where did you learn to speak like that?" she asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. "My mother taught me," Peter replied. "She always believed in the power of education, even when we had nothing." His words carried an emotional weight that resonated deeply with the room. Another executive chimed in. "Have you considered pursuing something beyond this job? With your skills, you could do so much more." Jonathan's face hardened slightly, but he didn't object. The shift in power dynamics was palpable. The room that had once dismissed Peter as insignificant now saw him in an entirely different light. The meeting concluded, but Peter's moment lingered in everyone's minds. By the next day, word of his impromptu performance had spread throughout the company. Staff members approached him with newfound respect, and even the executives, Jonathan included, treated him with a deference he had never experienced before. Peter was offered a promotion, not just as a gesture of goodwill, but as an acknowledgement of his capabilities. The company sponsored his enrollment in a language program, paving the way for opportunities he had once thought unattainable. He accepted the offer with humility, his heart full of gratitude, but also determination. As for Jonathan, the experience left a mark on him as well. Though he never openly admitted it, his interactions with staff grew more considerate, his sharp edges softened by the lesson Peter had unintentionally taught him. Greatness can come from anywhere. Peter's story became a legend within the company, a reminder that talent and dignity are not confined to titles or appearances. For those who had witnessed his moment, it was more than just a performance. It was an awakening. And for Peter, it was the beginning of a journey where he could finally embrace the potential he had always carried within him. Moral: true greatness lies not in wealth or power but in character, resilience, and the courage to rise above prejudice.